guys, welcome to part 2 of our interview with Jarrod Kimber. अगर आपने part 1 नहीं देखा है तो वो ऊपर कहीं आ जाएगा, आप क्लिक करके देख सकते हो. We discuss more about his personal life and वहां से क्या life lesson मिलते हैं. Part 2 is more about his cricketing journey, तो आप वो enjoy कर सकते हो. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and अच्छे comment छोड़ दीजिएगा. Now you can enjoy the rest of the interview.
Jarrod, while you were growing up, was writing on cricket always the focus, or you were just good at writing and decent at cricket, so that combined someday and you just stumbled upon writing?
Yeah, no, never wrote about cricket. Absolutely accidental. I can remember almost everything I ever wrote about cricket. So I didn't want to be a cricket writer or a sports writer. It just wasn't my thing.
You wrote 2 fictional books also, which got lost.
I wrote 2 books. I want to say 3 or 4 full-length screenplays.
Yeah.
I started making a short documentary, which fell apart. Oh, not even a short documentary, a documentary that fell apart. There was a lot of things that were going on that didn't quite make it. So writing was all those sorts of things. I can remember almost everything I ever wrote about cricket. I wrote an essay about Merv Hughes in about 1993. I wrote an instructional essay on how to bowl bodyline with only 2 fielders behind square in about 1997. And I started a normal blog in I want to say 2002 or 3. And there's one piece on there about, is there one piece or 2 pieces? There's 2 pieces on there. There's one about Adam Gilchrist. And there was one on there about the 2005 Ashes. So the one about Adam Gilchrist was essentially at a certain age, maybe around 2003, and I suppose this all plays back into what we're talking about, but at a certain age, around 2003, when I was about 23, I was watching Adam Gilchrist bat, and I suddenly, like a light went off in my head of, up until that point, I had focused on every failure I had done. We talk about that adolescent phase I was talking about before. Up until 23, I was just stuck in that. And from that point onwards, I realized that Adam Gilchrist would go out some days and he'd get bowled first ball and he'd put his bat under his arm and he'd smile and he'd walk off quickly. And then the next day he'd make 120 off 80 balls and he'd go out and he'd put his bat under his arm and he'd walk off quickly. And Adam Gilchrist would play a huge shot outside off stump and the commentators would go, "Oh, rash shot by Adam Gilchrist." And the next ball, he'd play whatever shot he wanted to. And I think before that, I was trapped in this sort of thing. So those were the only things I wrote about cricket in my life up until that point. And it goes back to Todd Spear, my basketball friend. And if there are any basketball fans out there, he's written an incredible book about Drazen Petrovic, the European basketballer, which is brilliant. But Todd and I, because I blogged a bit, and I'd had a little bit of success in sort of other blog fields, but nothing like I would go to have in cricket. Because I didn't really know what to write about. So I wrote about a different thing every day, as people in the early 2000s generally did with blogging a little bit more. And so I was at a football game with Todd, and his team was absolutely smashing my team. And so we got bored and we started talking. And he was asking for tips on how he thought he should structure a basketball blog. And I went through all the different things that I thought he should do. He was a point guard. So I was saying to him, there's 28 point guards in the NBA, and there's no blog on point guards. There's 100 different blogs on the NBA. What if you just did every week a different focus on a different point guard? Anyway, we were talking about that for a while, and I was telling him what I would do if I was doing a sports blog. And eventually he just turned to me and said, "Look, you know more about cricket than anyone I've ever met. Why don't you just do a cricket blog?"
That's interesting.
Bhaskar, did you ask about St. Lucia?
No, I did not.
So I just want to touch upon that as well, that you work as a team analytical, and it's a job that I feel like just suits you by your video essays and everything that you do. How was that experience dealing with players and telling them actual areas? And do players take that feedback? Do they understand what the numbers come from, or they are just stubborn? No, I know where to hit the ball and I will just follow whatever I've learned. Yeah,
it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Going into that environment, especially the senior players I've written about before, they all had their own opinions on my writing and my beliefs in cricket.
Is there any cricketer who sort of, that doesn't enjoy your sense of humor?
Oh, many cricketers that don't enjoy my sense of humor.
Can you name some for us? It's okay if you don't.
I mean, there are these very famous cricketers who are not fans of my work. I think that's fair to say. I think there's people don't know this, actually. It's not talked about a lot. There's a lot of cricketers who hate Cricinfo.
Not surprising, yeah.
Yeah, they see the Cricinfo writers as nerds who never played the game. Also, Cricinfo, up until really CricBuzz and maybe, some of the more modern cricket writing, Cricinfo was the only one ever talking about cricket. Every other cricket writer in the world was talking about cricket news. And the cricketer can kind of handle that. What they don't want is, why did you do this in the 17th over? Who are you to judge why I did something in the 17th over? I took the job at St. Lucia thinking that I would be working directly for the general manager and giving the coach a little bit of backup. And 2 days or 3 days into my arrival into St. Lucia, Roddy Eswick, who's one of the most brilliant men I've ever met in cricket, said to me, you can take the bowling meeting. And in that meeting was Mitch McClenaghan, Kieran Pollard, Darren Sammy, Mohammed Sami. Yeah. And then a few other, guys like Kesrick Williams and some really high quality cricketers. And I had no idea how to give a meeting like this or whatever. And I think if you were to judge my analytic skills on that, and you might have to ask some of the people in the meeting, I don't think they were, after that first meeting, thinking that I was the best analyst they'd ever come across. But that was an absolute shit show working for St. Lucia. The ownership was terrible. The team was not put together well. I remember Brad Hodge at one stage during the series just saying, this is a Frankenstein's team. And I corrected him and said Frankenstein's monster. Because everyone, I had picked a couple of players. The general manager picked a couple of players. Kieran Pollard kicked a couple of players. The owner kicked a couple of players. Brad Hodge. And it was just like, everyone had picked 2 players they liked and nothing. It was horrible. It was such a badly set up team. And then halfway through the tournament, I become general manager because the general manager quits, right? Which is so I hadn't even got near to working out the role as analyst. And now I have to run a cricket franchise. And it's funny that you say it suits me because I think my skills are probably more suited to the general manager side of things.
Okay.
Realistically, that was the only time I ever got to do it. But I actually thought that was a job that was more suited to than doing analysis. The problem is that I never even got to do the analysis correctly for them. They didn't have any video. I was stealing data. I did a deal with Crick, what are they called? Crick and GIF. I said I would write 6 columns for them if they would give me GIFs of all the balls so I could look at them. So I was instead of handing players video, I was sending them GIFs. It was just so unprofessional. And then the general manager quits because he hates the owner. Then the owner refuses to make me general manager, but I have to stand in for 2 games. Then he makes me general manager, which means that the senior players are now like, what? He was the analyst. And it's fair. And the Kieran Pollard's trousers didn't fit because all the clothes shrunk. They didn't tell me I needed a visa for one of the legs, so I got stuck in Jamaica for an extra day. 3 of the players had to sleep overnight in the Panama airport because they wouldn't pay for visas for them either. It was just shit. So I learned almost everything about being in cricket in the worst possible environment. And I've been lucky, the major teams I've worked with since, or the teams I've spent the most time with since then, Scotland was quite well run, especially for an associate. Melbourne Stars, dealing with them was better. The other teams and players and coaches I've dealt with have all been quite professional. But yeah, working with St. Lucia was absolutely crazy. And you realize that how much these cricketers are being screwed over by owners, management, structure, lack of professionalism. I remember having a meeting with some of the players at the end and just being like, I just want to do this so that you guys don't have anything to moan about. Basically, I want to do this in a way that you guys are moaning about things I don't give a shit about, rather than moaning about the fact that you guys don't have a helmet. For me, I think would be fair to say. And then I did it with Scotland, and Scotland was a horrendous job because try finding data out on the Singapore middle order batsman, right? Singapore middle order batsman is a club cricketer, and now he's trying to qualify for the World Cup. And I've got one YouTube video where he plays a good innings, and it's a 7-hour long YouTube video because there was a rain delay in the middle of the game and they didn't stop the stream. And I'm in South Africa on a training camp with bad Wi-Fi, if you've ever been on a 7-hour-long YouTube video and you're trying to go back to the ball before, good luck, right? And try ripping that down and editing it. Good luck. You've now got a, like 93 terabyte bloody file.
Which brings me to the next question that somebody asked. Any tips for young people who want to get into sport journalism? Is the tip going to be start a YouTube channel?
I suppose at the moment. No, I think I always say the same thing. Do what people aren't doing. And the minute I say that, everyone goes, oh, everything's already been done. And I'm like, I haven't even done all the things I want to do yet. And I can promise you that not everything has been done. For instance, a year ago, no one ever tried to do an animated YouTube channel on cricket. Right? There is, I talked about my friend in the NBA before. Is there a blog or a TikTok channel or anything that just specializes in wicket keeping, in fast bowling, in spin? Some of them are coming up. There are absolutely tons of things that you can do. Find the thing that you give a shit about and follow it until the end of the earth is basically how you do it. If you try and be like other people, someone's always going to be better than you at it. So whatever it is that you love about cricket, I would say focus on that and find a way of doing it that no one else has done it before.
Great advice. I'll move on to the next one. So a lot of people are asking about Death of a Gentleman. Did you face any backlash post it? Are you working on any other cricket documentaries? Or do you even wish to work on any other cricket documentaries?
Man, we faced backlash before it, during it, after it. Look, we certainly upset a lot of people who I would say deserve to be upset. But we certainly upset a lot of people within the game by making that. But I probably made more friends making that film.
Yeah,
people
and
who
a lot of fans, I guess.
Well, no, people who work in the game who were just sick and tired of it, you know,
okay.
Who were just like, oh, about time someone just came out and said that. Basically, a lot of that film was us saying the quiet bit out loud, which is that there are a lot of people within cricket boards and a lot of people within the ICC who are doing everything they can to grow the game and make the game better. They may not make all the best decisions. They may not do everything perfectly, but that's what they are trying to do. And then you have a couple of boards, or in this case, a couple of people who just want it their way and want to be oligarchs of cricket. Yeah. And we're completely screwing the game up for their own personal reasons. So yeah, there was a lot of backlash. When we got thrown out of the hotel at the ICC, actually, I don't think we technically got thrown out. I think we ran out before the security guard found us. I don't know if that counts as being thrown out. When we did that, my wife works for the UK government, and I knew that Giles Clarke was quite an influential person. So I called her and said, "Can your job be ended by a," and she said no, and she explained why, and I was like, cool. Anyway, so this just happened. And at that point, me and Sam had a good conversation. I think Sam was so angry with cricket at the end that he didn't care if he worked in cricket after that point, which is a shame because he loves the sport and he's a loss to cricket not having him involved with cricket, because he's a brilliant thinker and he should be working in cricket. I think for me, I had started as a blogger, and if the only thing they could do to me, would be to take away my accreditation. Do you know what? I got to where I was without accreditation. Take it away. If you think that's going to shut me up, the opposite is going to happen, right? And to be fair, Cricinfo completely backed me. I'd only just started with them. They could have easily just gone like, you know, like the editor of Cricinfo in the UK, David Hobbs, is being hauled into Giles Clarke's office for Giles Clarke to scream at him. To be fair, I think Hobbsy screamed back at him. You know, and they backed me 100%. In fact, I remember I called my wife first to see when we got kicked out of the hotel, and then I told Cricinfo what I did, and they were like, "That's just really good journalism." Like, you found out where the meeting was, which they didn't want anyone to do, and then you sat out the front of it and you made them try and explain themselves. That's what you're supposed to do. So, very lucky that you know, guys like Sam Bal and David Hobbs had just completely had my back at that point. And also, there was a classic case where I'm pretty sure this happened. A major person in cricket called up the head of ESPN UK and said, "You must fire Jarrod Kimber." And the person said, "Who's Jarrod Kimber?" Like, I was so low down the totem pole. Do you know what I mean? They didn't even know who I was, which I thought was hilarious. Whereas this guy's like, he's the most hated person in cricket. And this guy's like, I don't even think we hire a Jarrod Kimber. So, so yeah. Yeah.
But I think that should be the name of your biography, the most hated man in cricket.
Well, that was yeah. A couple of people have said that about me, and weirdly, everyone hates them. So I don't know. Maybe the three of us should form a group together.
Yeah, I'm sending a friend request right away. So the Ben Dunk video, like, how do you think about the premise of such a video? Like, does it occur to you it's a conversation you have with someone, or some of these ideas are just like in a little notebook of yours being kept over the years?
Video, it's a really good question. I think I counted them the other day. I have 130 unwritten pieces. So at one stage, I assumed Ben Dunk was just one of the 130. When he started struggling for the Melbourne Stars, but was still playing overseas, I found that very, very interesting, being that I knew that the opposite had happened. I've always been obsessed by Ben Dunk and his path because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't flow the way you expect the players. It doesn't flow the way you would expect a professional athlete's path. I'm playing badly, I shouldn't get any contracts. I'm playing well, I should get contracts. His has never done that. And I started to think about how weird it was, and then you start to lay out the different pieces. So the trade, which is still one of the worst trade. It might end up being the worst trade in cricket history. And then you look at the fact that he went and starts doing well in the PSL out of nowhere, despite the fact he probably shouldn't have got chosen for it. Then you look at that he's like the most single-use batter in world cricket of left arm finger spin. I started putting all those together, and then as I did that, then I was just like, it's quite a small video at that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's
just like telling one story. And then I thought, do you know what? This is really the story of how random the early part of T20 cricket is. It's a very, very, how players end up at teams is shit. Like when I called around to find out how Ben Dunk ended up in the PSL, the answers I got were just disappointing. Like really disappointing. From good cricket people who I respect as well. And you're just like, if we're still doing stuff like this now, it's a concern. And so I suppose from that point, you keep putting layers on it, and suddenly there's an enclosed story. So if you look at if you look at some of the videos we do, the Sun on Orion's quite an enclosed story. It's really just about Sun on Orion with a little bits of color around him. Whereas Ben Dunk is really, I'm telling the story of something a lot bigger. I don't see it as a Ben Dunk video. Right, I see it as the video of early T20 cricket and how shambolic it has been, and how much it has changed, and how much that cricketers look different now, and how much the shots are different now, and how much the marketplace is unprofessional, and how few oversights there are in why teams pick certain players and whatever. Once it's that, it's a big project, right? That's a big thing, and that's and then I'm looking for ways of telling that story. And it just sort of, so the Sun on Orion and the Ben Dunk thing don't start at different points. They just end at different points.
So you start collecting facts and then you sort of try to find a narrative around it, which will...
Yeah, I always do that. That's my basic thing. But the difference is that sometimes you don't have a huge story to hang on it. The story is Sun on Orion, right? So I don't know if you guys, I did a video on a guy called John O'Wells.
I think I've seen it. Yeah.
Not many people saw that one. John O'Wells and Ben Dunk, I probably started writing on the same day, right? And when I originally wrote them, I probably both thought they were going to be about 10 minutes long, and they would be quite simple to put together. One of them ended up taking 6 months to make, and the other one ended up taking 2.5 days to make, right? And they both came from the idea of I was, thinking about the Big Bash coming up. And certain players that I was interested in, but one, there was just so much more to hang on. This with Ben Dunk, this means this. With Ben Dunk, this means this. With Ben Dunk, this means this. With John O'Wells, this is what happened to John O'Wells. This is John O'Wells' story. This is what John O'Wells does that is different to other people. This is what he does that's the same to other people. That's the whole video. With Ben Dunk, it's this bigger landscape of everything. And so when you get a project like that, as a writer, you have to follow it, is my way of doing it. All right. So it's hard to explain sometimes to editors when they've asked you for 1,500 words and you've written 7,000. But realistically, if you get those sorts of ideas, I knew this is the thing. I knew that the Ben Dunk story, even if you didn't know who Ben Dunk was, and there were literally people Googling Ben Dunk's name because they didn't believe it was a real cricketer. I knew that the Ben Dunk story was interesting enough that I could make a much wider point and people would follow me because they would follow this random cricketer that they either hadn't heard of or had forgotten about or thought was shit. Those are the three things people had about Ben Dunk. But I knew that his story and the story around him was very, very, very big and very deep and had a lot of different elements to it. So then it's up to me as a writer to write that and follow it. And that's kind of how that ends up happening. So the Ben Dunk video and the John O'Well's video don't start from different points. It's just that one finishes where it should finish and the other one finishes far beyond that.
Got it. Thank you so much. We have this small segment called the Super Over, in which we're just going to throw 6 statements or questions at you and just answer them. There's going to small answers, and then that's the end of the episode.
Okay.
All right. Bhaskar, you want to start with the first one?
Yeah. So I want to start with the first one. So Jarrod, you started in the Australia, played your initial cricket there, and then moved to the UK to be a sports journalist. Now, there's one guy who started in the UK, played his initial cricket there, and then moved to Australia to be a very famous sports journalist. Can you name them?
Are you talking about Peter Roebuck?
Oh,
yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Too easy. Okay, the next one is the man is credited for the success of England in World Cup 2019. Having started his job in 2016, he divided the pitch in 20 blocks and started the English limited overs revolution.
Lehman.
Oh yeah, he knows it. Okay, let's go on.
I mean, I know Nathan Lehman and I knew Peter Roebuck, so I feel like I've got a bit of an advantage on these questions.
Yeah, we're just going to start a little easy for the first 3, I guess. The next one is also very easy.
So next one is a full toss to you, Jarrod. You can hit out of the park. So what are the 3 countries that do not have a test status, but they can play ODIs?
Oh, shit.
Too late.
Scotland, Holland. Oh, who is the third one? I should know this. Is it Nepal?
Yeah, there are a lot of actually. Even United States is one of them. UAE.
I was going to say United States, and then I thought, because you said 3. But yeah.
Name any 3 basically. They're not only 3 countries. Yeah. That is
okay.
All right. You have to arrange them in decreasing order of test runs. All right. The career test runs. First one is Dravid. Second is Amla, Younes, Kallis.
The highest would be Kallis. I would assume that the second highest would be Dravid, third highest would be Younes, and the lowest would be Amla.
That's absolutely correct. Bhaskar, next one.
What is a diamond duck, Jarrod?
A diamond duck is when you run out without facing a ball.
Okay.
Great.
All right. And one last, this is the trick question. All right. So we all know Headingley 2019, the partnership between Ben Stokes and Jack Leach, 70 odd, where Jack Leach only scored 1 run. In Indian cricket, we have had a similar partnership, right? Between Bhuvan and X. It was not a 70 run, it was a 20-30 run partnership. Can you tell me who X is?
Sorry, who did you say the first player was?
Bhuvan.
Was that a Kapil Dev partnership?
No, it wasn't. This is from a Bollywood movie, Lagan. And X was Kachra, so there's no way.
I can promise you that there's no way I would ever get a question about any Bollywood film correct. Although here's a fun fact: I've worked on more Bollywood films than I have actually been that I've seen.
You've worked in Bollywood films, like in cricket movies?
No, they made a Bollywood film, a couple of Bollywood films in Melbourne at one stage.
Yeah. Salam Namaste and a bunch of them got made.
Okay, it might have been that one I worked. I don't know what it was called.
Okay.
A couple of my friends had real jobs on it, and I just went down one day to help out. I'm not in the credits or anything. I don't know if even my friends are in the credits, but I went down one day and just like moved boxes for someone. I think was all I did to say that I'd worked on a Bollywood film. I think every aspiring filmmaker in Melbourne worked on those films.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much, Jarrod. It was really fun to have you. Looking forward to you being an analytic in IPL and actually helping Virat Kohli win a title.
I'm more than happy. To be fair, I was with Bangalore and that didn't go particularly well. So maybe we'll find another team for me.
All right. I'll start contacting Ganguly about it. I'll find you another team. Don't worry. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you so much, Jarrod.